She sees you. Audrey puts her steaming mug aside.
I knew you'd turn up. I've got one question before you say anything. What's your opinion of the council?
Melville gives you a respectful look.
Exactly. Pressing isn't the best word, but I understand what you mean because I feel it too. Nakamura wants us all to depend on one another, and mostly on the new committee. It both scares and angers me. I came up with a motto for the picnic long ago. We're a neutral zone, but not outcasts. We're ready to cooperate when it's needed for the common good, but we will not be used as Nakamura's or anyone else's soldiers.
Her fists are clenched, but she quickly calms down. Audrey sips at her drink.
If you're here, it means you need something from Picnic. That's good, because we need something from you, too. The Anomaly Protector. I can teach you how to make one and give you the necessary materials, but we'll need something in return, of course. The family was supposed to join Picnic. They sent a message a couple days ago that they were headed in our direction, and that's it.
She offers her hand. The blue obviously doesn't like what you're implying.
I always speak on behalf of Picnic. We're certainly ready to protect and help the Yansons once they become part of our community. But for now, they're just people crossing the desert in this direction. We haven't got the resources to help everyone in the Barrens. Only our folk.
Melville is annoyed and displeased. Melville puts a hand over her mouth.
Damn dome. Who could have done it?
Audrey stares thoughtfully past you, chin on hand.
I hate to sound cynical, but I placed my hopes on that family. Oliver said there were doctors and chemists among them. Those are the only specialists we need to become fully autonomous. Looks like we're going to do without him for some time yet. Here are your relics. You did the work, anyway.
The girl shudders.
Okay, you have fulfilled your obligations. I will fulfill mine. I promised you plans of the Anomalous Protector. Here you go. You will need a relic known as the Brass Apple to make it. The relic can be found in the basement of the gas station. Thank you.
Nakamura turns away from the window.
I do hope you've come for a reason.
Nakamura folds her arms and assumes a thoughtful expression.
Do you remember our conversation at the council? The part where we spoke about every participant being an equal. You may criticize my decision to have you work for the benefit of all parties, but at the same time I was tying their hands. You should be grateful. Now, they can't involve you in their spy games, knowing that you might already be working for me, or Carmine Heights, or the church. Whatever, I wouldn't know.
Kimiko stares at her computer screen.
I could give the order right now, and Henrietta will receive all the necessary provisions, money, and fuel for her expedition. However, I need a favor from you in return. More than one, actually.
Kimiko twines her fingers together.
The new committee invested a significant amount of capital and man-hours into the emulator. We need to enlist our opponents to ensure the project's success, sacrificing our political influence. All of this weakened the NC inside and out. Both the emulator project and the people of the Dome owe us, and I intend to collect. Control over the city and Magellan has weakened lately. Without discipline, everything will fall apart. The new committee's position must be strengthened drastically. That will be your task.
Nakamura stares intently at you, her body rigid. Kimiko snorts.
There's nothing to consider. If you sabotage this project, everyone will suffer, including you.
The chairwoman scans the monitor.
Then begin with disposing of the confiscated selectrons. They're in a box in Magellan Police Headquarters, currently in Antonio Aguirre's possession. Pick up the box, bring it to the waste dump, and get rid of it.
Glad to meet you.
Good day to you.
Don't be shy.
Nakamura turns away from the window.
I do hope you've come for a reason.
The chairwoman scrutinizes the document.
I intend to stop the flow of Selectrons to the Magellan black market once and for all. Speaking of Magellan, I increased the number of cameras at the station last year and assigned a new head of surveillance. He was caught taking a bribe about a month ago. Blackwing HR proposed 2 candidates for the role, Courtney Resna and Lieutenant Indra Kapoor. I want you to talk to them both. Choose the most suitable candidate and relay your decision to Martin Kingsley, head of Magellan. I'm depending on your judgment.
Kimiko's gaze lingers on your face.
Glad to meet you.
Remember, our honest work will make the world a better place. World a better place.
Why do you keep bothering me?
Nakamura turns away from the window.
I do hope you've come for a reason.
The chairwoman nods graciously.
Kingsley already told me you choose Kapoor, and he agrees with your decision. I hope to see significant improvement in the quality of our video surveillance.
Kimiko pulls the keyboard closer and presses a couple of keys.
There, the logistics department will issue the resources for your expedition. Go make Henrietta's day.
You are once again enveloped in white light, shimmering, dense, and sparkling like snow. But the maelstrom itself feels different now. The rotation is fast, jagged, and furious. You can barely maintain your grip. It's also difficult to control it. The connection is weak, and all you manage to do is to reduce the harmful psi radiation to a minimum in the place where Russo planned to camp. Your interaction with the maelstrom ends at that. The thin line of control slips out of your hands, cutting off the connection. The white space around shrinks rapidly into a dense, gleaming point and disappears. You are thrown out of the session. Lying on a warm metal floor, you slowly regain consciousness. Fox seems surprisingly thoughtful, so much so that you can easily tell that even through the mask.
I heard you talking to Maelstrom. We'll go straight to it, right?
She looks at you with sore eyes.
The head was itching. It's better now.
The woman bangs her fist on the skull. Daria snorts and shrinks into herself. She is clearly not very comfortable with this idea.
Great.
She answers after some hesitation. Crump greets you with a dry, approving smile.
Well, how's your head? I'm still amazed that the maelstrom can't take you down.
The brute grunts.
Well, nobody really gave the details. I guess my face doesn't inspire much confidence. But as I understand it, you did it. The Junktowners say that a camp has been set up near the ruins of Concord, and all the bigwigs have gathered there.
The orange nods heavily, flexing his fists.
Kicking Maelstrom's ass is fine by me. I'm with you.
The abbot's hologram silently hovers closer to you.
Ah, the one who survived Maelstrom. Good to see you again.
He scrutinizes your face with his attentive, restless eyes.
From the moment you crossed the threshold of the temple, I expected something more. I understand your hesitation. You were trying to pick a side. Now you're here, and I'm the one hesitating.
The luminous holographic face distorts slightly.
I understand. You hesitated regarding a choice you'd already made. I'm willing to trust you, and I'm ready to make an offer.
The old man smooths his robes with flowing motions.
The Church's position regarding the Maelstrom is long since expressed. We consider the Maelstrom neither good nor evil. It is just a calculating machine fulfilling its prescribed function, though it is capable of performing other operations too.
The abbot bends toward you, scrutinizing your face with his intimidating dark eyes.
Here is what we intend to do. Change the Maelstrom's program. As far as I understand, you are the only one capable of it. That is why you are here. I am here. And all those people wishing to control the Dome are here too. While none of them comes here meaning peace, no one gives promises of a better life, or decreasing the tension of political opposition. No. Each one speaks only of power they need. Obviously only to continue their political gains from a stronger position.
He whispers, never moving his stare from your face, his voice hypnotic.
You are tired. You seek to hasten with your decision to make it all end. However, it will not end. Only moving the conflict to another level once one of the sides have the advantage of the Maelstrom. That is what anyone would do. Anyone but the Church. You took part in our sermons and you know where the calculating capacity will go. We shall open our world to everyone. Make it beautiful. Better than it is now.
The excited abbot falls silent. His thin fingers fiddle with the folds of his robes.
I hope you will see reason. It's not too late to make the right decision.
The abbot waves his translucent hand, leaving a glowing scarlet trail.
I have sent you a special program. If you manage to adjust it to the Maelstrom's frequency, its entire calculating capacity will be in the Church's order. That would be a great gift to all mankind. Think about it.
The Phalanx camp is militarily ascetic, but even it bears some semblance of comfort. A table with a lamp and some documents is standing by the fire, and a golden statue of Christ is sitting in a chair nearby. Zemeckis himself is reclining in another chair, sipping peacefully at his tea from a small cup. Zemeckis greets you with a small, sarcastic smile.
Look who's here. I guessed you were still deciding whose side you're on. But it seems you finally come to a realization. Or you are just weighing your options. It's probably one of those two things.
The head of the Phalanx pumps his fists in the air in a gesture of victory.
Bingo! You're a smart one, no doubt. You understand everything. I wouldn't be sitting here if I hadn't sought out this meeting with you. I have an offer to make. And it has to do with...
Hieronymus jerks his thumb in Maelstrom's direction.
The Maelstrom is, so to say, an omnipotent, endless source of information. We are all connected to it, unwillingly, in a two-direction way. Receive and pass data. Actually, the Maelstrom contains all our thoughts and deeds. And if we approach it with proper analysis, it will show our nearest future as well.
Zemeckis puts his fingers together and stares at the ceiling, thoughtful.
I'd like to tell you a secret,
he says after a long pause.
My engineers and programmers created a system capable of analyzing data from the Maelstrom and turning it into predictions. The only thing left, the most important thing, to be precise, is to obtain it.
Zemeckis moves the flap of his coat aside. You notice a gun in his waist belt and a small knife on his thigh. However, he doesn't reach for the weapons. He produces a small device from his pocket, looking like a modified relic. The Phalanx leader hands you the device, and pats you on the arm reassuringly.
Here your part begins. Taking this device to the center of the Maelstrom will be a piece of cake for you. I won't insist on you making your decision here and now. Take your time. But think. If we know the results of our actions, we will become gods.
Nakamura is already waiting for you, cold and straight-backed as usual, standing with her arms folded. She looks you over.
Your work for the new committee wasn't exactly flawless. I've long pondered if I should enlist your aid again, but haven't come to any definitive conclusion. Convince me.
Nakamura gives you a piercing look.
You're right about that, unfortunately. I have one more task for you. That's what you're here for, right? Instruction on what to do about Maelstrom?
Kimiko leans toward you, threateningly.
You're a bit out of line. Like all those people who cover themselves with made-up authorities and now believe that all their power are worth something. Moderate your ambition. I gave you all your rights in the new committee and all your perspectives. You are the operator, I am the employer, and your achievement changes nothing in our relationship.
Her features distort, as if a long-kept fury has burst out at last. She covers her face with a hand fitfully. Nakamura takes her hand off her face and exhales loudly.
Now listen to me.
The Silver remains silent for a few moments, gathering the appropriate words.
The emulator project was founded to take the Maelstrom under control for the safety of the dome's inhabitants. And I will not let this control slip into the hands of dubious people. I don't care if someone assumes it to be hijacking. For me, the result is crucial, and there can be neither compromises nor half measure in this matter. I don't care whether or not you believe my course to be right. You're not supposed to give me evaluations. You only must do what I say.
Nakamura's yellow bionic eye turns a bit on its axis, aiming at you. Sable brings her a case. Kimiko clicks the turn locks open, lifts the lid, and unfolds the case, showing you its contents. There's a helmet with cables and controllers lying inside. The chairwoman pushes the case toward you.
It's kind of an emulator early version, only much weaker. I need you to link it directly to the Maelstrom. Do you understand the task?
Nakamura turns the helmet to show you the folded transmitter unit antenna.
As soon as you connect it, I'll be able to send signals to the Maelstrom.
The Silver looks at the device.
I'm no engineer. I don't know all its nuances. I do know, however, that Henrietta was going to adjust it right to the Maelstrom's frequency. She had a colleague, a friend, who tried to do that. He failed, but you will succeed.
Kimiko shakes her head negatively.
No. Each such helmet is adjusted individually to the user's brainwaves. If reset, it should be reconnected to the Maelstrom too.
She closes the case and pushes it toward you.
That's it then. Get ready and set about the task.
Nakamura steps aside and freezes, arms folded.
Whatever you think, I do this for the new committee's sake.
She says softly as you move away.
Hey, is it really you? At least someone who doesn't make me sick.
Audrey, wearing her usual blue uniform, offers you her hand in a businesslike manner. The blue leans closer to you.
Honestly, I don't know why I'm here. I'm not going to participate in carving up what's left of the dome. Too bad you can't share in my convictions.
The girl's eyes go round with surprise.
Really? I'll tell you what I'd do with Maelstrom if I were you.
Audrey looks down.
Maelstrom may be a great advantage, or even a weapon, if in wrong hands. We must make sure that it wouldn't begin to grow uncontrollably again. Then weaken it, and give it some more space, so that no force, like the new committee or the Phalanx, would be able to take everything for themselves. I don't impose my opinion, but the more the entire dome will resemble Picnic, the better and quieter our lives will be.
She looks up and stares you in the eyes, as if to be sure you stand with her. Melville looks around.
I envy the people who built Concord. Firstly, they had the freedom the late Cronus could never dream of. And secondly, they had freedom. There's no secondly for us, you see? They traveled here for the future, for discoveries, not for dictators and bureaucracy. It was the only time when the development of the dome was what it should have been.
Henrietta, wearing a white wing field service dress, greets you with a mock military salute.
I report. Everything's functioning. There are certain problems, but overall, everything works as expected.
She looks at the ruins in the distance.
All of this infrastructure still looks awesome. I hope one day we can build something just as impressive.
The white produces her Kairos.
Now this is the right question. Do you remember me saying there were certain problems? Well, technically everything's perfect. But I still can't connect the emulator to the Maelstrom. The Maelstrom's obviously much more compressed than I thought it was. However, I managed to define its precise coordinates.
Russo clicks some buttons.
The Maelstrom is now where the Concord Station landing ground once was. You remember the station? I hope you won't be knocked out with an attack of nostalgia, because you'll have to come to grips with the Maelstrom. Maybe then I'll be able to establish the connection. Did you think I fully share them?
She winks. Russo looks toward the horizon.
As a scientist, I think more and more often that we shouldn't switch it off. If we do take the Maelstrom under control, we'll be able to get much more knowledge out of it than we can now. That might break new ground in science. But maybe I'm just an idealist in Red Sox. Wait a minute.
Henrietta quickly looks around.
I heard Nakamura was going to send her special forces after you. Be careful, okay? And good luck.
She pats you on the back. The Reisners meet you at the large, brightly lit campfire. Olivia is as nervous and active as always, despite the heat. Johan is thoughtful, as usual. The Blue shakes her blonde locks.
I was wondering when you'd show up. Come in. Do you want me to cook pancakes? Johan, say hello to our guest.
Radiation around the Maelstrom may be kind of concentrated. Mind it when you go there.
Johan offers you his hand absent-mindedly. He is obviously lost in thought.
All he thinks about is his work.
Olivia moves away, shaking her head. Her eyes look tired. The same kind of tiredness reads in Johan's eyes when he turns to you, sighing. The head of Carmine Heights greets you, but without much enthusiasm.
How are you doing? Everything all right? Yeah, we're fine too. We've got the same old problems, but you know about that. What brings you here?
Johan hesitates.
You speak with such fervor, but how can I trust you? Judging by your actions, it's difficult to tell how much you care about Carmine Heights' interests. Although if our views on the future of Maelstrom match... Okay. I analyzed the telemetry that Russo sent. Maelstrom is a tool, and this tool must be wielded, not be the subject of experimentation like Henrietta wanted. Don't get me wrong, I'm fond of fundamental science, but if you're given a hammer, you knock the nail in rather than study what the hammer is made of. The time for study will come, but now we have a lot of problems to solve. Maybe the Maelstrom could be made to work with the isosuits.
He is lost in thought again. Olivia peeks from behind Johan's shoulder.
All I heard is just a lot of problems. And that's it exactly. If the Maelstrom is a tool, let's use it to solve problems. We need water, we need proper weather. We have to solve the problem of infertility inside the dome. You keep talking about technology so insistently, as if it were the only thing that matters.
The Blue's face lights up.
Actually, yes. Your impartial perspective on our family helped me a great deal. When your living situation remains unchanged for years, You can end up going from one day to the next without the slightest idea something is wrong.
He looks at Olivia.
Now I feel like it all has meaning again.
A roughly nailed together wooden stage hangs over the yelling and shifting crowd of fops. A makeshift guillotine with an enormous blade standing on top of it. Standing on the scaffold, Victoria points her finger at you, and the crowd quiets down gradually. One by one, the fops turn to look at you.
You caused enough damage to us, Knight. I can give an order and all my people will rush to tear you into pieces. But I'm thinking now, maybe you could render me a service. Consider it. You have a couple of minutes before you die.
The Queen dangles her legs from the scaffold's edge and swings them nonchalantly. Victoria looks at the guillotine.
This is as obvious as it is right, Knight. You will carry me to the Maelstrom.
She frowns, adjusting her crown, which slipped sideways a bit.
That is curious, even. Why those stupid questions, Knight? Could a queen want anything other than that?
The young woman claps her hands.
Great. Trump! Elephant!
She says to a nearby fop wearing a gas mask with a long dangling trunk.
The time of the final speech has come. Hey, all of you, listen to your queen's address.
Legrand steps back from the edge of the scaffold and adjusts her crown. She throws her head back and stares at the guillotine blade frozen against the sky. She looks over the crowd of fops, standing straighter.
My beloved subjects, when we started our great expedition following the leaving Maelstrom, I used to ask myself, how did it all begin? Not the expedition, but the events before it. How did we all happen to come together? Several sleepless nights, and some candy floss gave me the answer. We are together because each of us always had a penchant for power and had the innate feeling of where to find it.
She approaches the edge of the stage again, hovering above her army.
A crowd is power, and therefore the crowd we form is growing bigger each day. Knives and guns are power, and therefore we have loads of them. Maelstrom is power, and therefore we followed it, found it, and it won't escape us ever again.
Accompanied by the fops' excited yells, Victoria points her finger at the maelstrom spinning above the ruined remnants of Concord.
Power is the answer to any question, the solution to any problem. If you dwell on a scrap of land on the west, you will only need power to take over the entire dome. If you have strange dreams of a past, you can neither remember nor forget properly. You only need power to create a present where no past would matter.
With that, Victoria kneels before the guillotine.
Come, Knight.
She says softly, settling on the apparatus' wooden bedding.
When it is over, carry me to the Maelstrom.
Metal rings hold her arms tightly. Raising her head for the last time, Victoria cries, addressing the crowd.
My beloved subjects, today I will go to the Maelstrom to bring its power to you.
The sharp guillotine blade drops with a whistle and a clang. Victoria's chopped-off head bounces right into your hands. The crowd of fops behind you bursts out with exultation. Concord Station's bus stop is shady and silent. Now this place looks completely unrecognizable. The floor is covered with small concrete crumbs, and green moss islands break through the cracks in the tiles, dampening the sound of your steps. The metal doors leading to the station suddenly begin to tremble, slowly shifting to the sides. Primitive automation and reliable light sensors still work despite all the cataclysms. Several people appear in the doorway. They have no insignia and uniforms, but they do not look like bandits. They must be from picnic. You freeze among the ruins, trying not to breathe or move. For a while, the fighters wander around the hall, discussing the noise they heard a few minutes ago in an undertone, and then leave, dissolving into the crumbling corridors of the station. The wind howls in the ruins of the hall. The floor here is still strewn with burnt flares and documents stuck to the tiles, traces of a hasty, panicked evacuation. As soon as you enter the room, a panicked howl of the alarm is heard nearby. You step back into the shadows and press against the wall, your back feeling the touch of cold, damp metal. "Let's go inside." A voice distorted by the interference of the intercom is heard from somewhere above. Several ropes hang through the holes in the ceiling. Two black shadows rapidly slide down them and soundlessly land on the floor. After them, clutching the rope with trembling hands, a girl in a silver jacket slides down. Stopping in the middle of the hall, the blacks look around for a while and then lower their weapons in frustration. "All clear. Madam Administrator, I propose to relocate. Probably just a rat." After a brief conversation, the special forces leave. The Silver follows after them, writing something in her handheld. A heavy blow rings out behind your back, followed by rumbling, metallic grinding, and the roar of an engine. You turn to see a phalanx truck racing down the corridor, littered with stones and concrete debris. The car stops. An energetic little man with an angry, sunburned face jumps out. "Move out, folks! Look alive! Go! Go!" He slams his hand on the cab, and several fighters hop out. On their commander's orders, they anchor their grappling hooks on the remains of a glass bridge and climb to the second floor. You quickly find shelter among the broken walls and debris. You watch from cover as the mercenaries arrive. They look around for a while, then move deeper into the station, talking in low voices. The holographic training simulation is still running. Pink silhouettes are walking their patrol, weapons ready. Looking over the terminal's half-shattered display, you realize the situation has become much more dire. The active program reports that the holograms are equipped to fire energy pulses, and their hits can be quite painful. After some time, you notice a group of temple novitiates. Like you, they're studying the hologram from a safe distance. They haven't spotted you yet. You freeze near the crumpled wall panels and surreptitiously examine the cultists. The churchmen proceed cautiously through the hall. A few minutes later, they disappear into the ruined station. They do not return. On your way through the broken decontamination chamber, you hear a hollow booming and clatter, like someone climbing through a ventilation duct. Pausing to listen, you hear a barely audible voice, slowly coming towards you. "Eventually, it will all come down to ethics, Myrtle. Zemeckis will use Maelstrom for his own benefit, as will Nakamura and the Reisners. In this scenario, someone will be left out in the cold. It's important that that someone is the bad guys," the first voice remarks softly but confidently. Shifting the rusted shutters slightly apart, you look through the gap. The eco-zone looks deserted and even more overgrown. A mossy Mobios with dimly glowing eyes slowly wanders among the scattered boulders and broken equipment. Looking closely, you notice something else. Over on the right, a huge ventilation duct has fallen through the ceiling. Voices are coming from within. You freeze in the bushes and hold your breath. A small light flickers inside the duct. probably the beam of a flashlight. The conversation grows louder. The debaters are approaching. Do you realize how much you've shifted the emphasis? It doesn't matter who will, as you like to say, be out in the cold. God! The fact that someone ends up a loser makes the emulator project a total failure. Completely different forces need to work together only to result in one winner in the end. The second voice, clearly female, heatedly objects. A squad steps out of the duct. They're wearing protective suits with Carmine Heights insignias. They scatter across the ecozone, careful to stay hidden from the mobiles wandering among the ruins. Keeping to the perimeter, they head for the exit and leave the ecozone for good. Maelstrom is getting nearer. The increasing vibration and tense crackling of your Kairos Geiger counter attest to it. Beyond the door at the end of the corridor, a ragged white storm is raging, and yellowed sheets of paper now and then flap against the dusty glass in the gale force winds. A strange rattling sounds from the restroom. The noise gradually increases in volume until it explodes into a cacophony of breaking porcelain and gushing water. Almost simultaneously, fountains of sewage erupt above the toilet stalls. This disaster is followed by a discordant cry of victory. A powerful kick throws the toilet door open, and 3 fops come out of the stall. You're hiding in the ruins of visitor registration. The fops run to and fro across the destroyed lobby, screaming, turning over chairs, smashing light bulbs, and urinating in the flower pots. They don't seem to have any motive, but are simply reveling in rampant chaos. When they run out of breath, the fops return to the bathroom, from which come the sounds of flushing water and gradually receding voices. The crackling of your Kairos suddenly breaks through Maelstrom's howling. Pulsating purple waves ripple and flex in the glowing air as if boiling about the invisible border. You throw your head back to see Maelstrom lazily swirling directly above you, but an unknown anomaly is blocking your way. It's almost imperceptible, but probably extremely dangerous. Green rays flicker across the surface of the anomaly, outlining its spheroidal shape. Data scrolls up on your scanner display. You circle around the anomaly. It's an irregularly shaped bubble around a dense, swirling void. The anomaly covers an area of about 30 square meters, and most of the landing capsule falls within its perimeter. That will be a problem. This is the same capsule you were going to use to get to Maelstrom. You throw a bolt at the anomaly. It hops about in the air for a few seconds, as if bouncing on an invisible trampoline, and then flattens as if crushed by a multi-ton press, and finally snaps in half. With an indignant hiss, Fox blocks your way.
No, no, stop!
The anomaly suddenly seems to stretch towards you, as if sensing your presence. And you're not the only one witnessing this. Jumping closer to the anomaly, she sucks air between her teeth and growls softly.
Death. The Earth reeks of death. This thing wants to take one of us, I know it. I feel it.
You walk decisively into the tensely vibrating bubble and feel the space around you fill with deafening silence. Your ears pop. From your peripheral vision, you notice a rapidly approaching shadow. Crump storms into the anomaly, grabs you, and with a powerful kick, launches both of you out of the quivering bubble of distorted space. The orange examines you for a moment, then rewards you with a powerful slap on the cheek.
You really are an idiot.
The anomaly surrounding the landing pad begins to change. The vibration around its perimeter grows more rapid and chaotic, as if engulfed by a transparent flame. A moment later, It disappears with a soft poof. The way is clear. Fox growls in your face, shaking with impotent rage. Looks like she was worried about you. The Bruiser gives you a sullen look, then strikes the ground with his huge fist, enraged.
I'm still angry about your shenanigans. It's cool you're not worried about this stuff, but it looks to me like you're on an important mission.
Return safely.
Fox grunts softly from beneath her mask. You look back at the ruins of the landing pad once more. A purple glow seems to have frozen in the air. Somewhere high above your head, the transport capsule's cables vibrate like giant guitar strings. Maelstrom is already near. All that remains is to take the last step. The Maelstrom, now weak and shrunk, is slowly spinning amidst the thick fog. It is restrained by the emulator's core broadcasting via the Maelstrom beacons, though still very dangerous. You touch it with your fingers for a split second, and a flow of information overwhelms you at once, stunning you for a few moments. Listening carefully, you hear the familiar sound ingrained in your memory. Soft, rhythmic beats like heartbeats. Your mind opens toward the white nothingness as if hanging in midair. And something living inside the Maelstrom, invisible but perceptible, freezes in front of you, awaiting your command. You stop beside the Maelstrom, thinking. Any decision seems a hasty one now. Whoever you give control of this power to, there'll be no way to predict the consequences. The only solution that seems reasonable is giving the Maelstrom to scientists. With enough time and resources for their research, they'll do the right thing eventually. Your mind is connected to the Maelstrom. You give it a complicated order. Split into several streams, lower the peripheral activity, and make specific borders to the research zones to avoid disturbing ordinary dome dwellers. The white vortex is shimmering with lightning, listening obediently to your commands. Then flashes with white light and spreads so fast you have no time to react. The shining stream pushes you backward, casting you into an endless white nothingness. Both Johann's and Olivia's faces show the same unreadable expression of displeasure and disappointment. As different as they are similar now, with the kind of similarity only spouses can sometimes show.
I just can't understand you.
Johann shakes his head, disappointed. Olivia stabs you in the chest with her finger, furious.
You merely exploited us. I hope you're happy with the outcome.
Olivia throws up her arms angrily and goes away. Johann watches you, confused, and says nothing. Yellow dust is still hovering in the warm air, not yet settled down completely. Russo is standing near her tent, looking both peaceful and lost.
I feel as if they'd taken my favorite toy from me. I'm kidding. I'm glad you succeeded.
Henrietta watches the Maelstrom, which looks as if squeezed inside a gigantic parallelepiped.
The most involved part is just the beginning. I make up an engineer team first, we create a Maelstrom controlling interface, and then we elaborate a system of tests.
She lightly squeezes your shoulder and looks into your eyes gratefully.
I say, without my usual irony, we'll be able to do so much thanks to you. How much? I don't know. Our future may surpass our boldest dreams. Time will tell.
Nakamura is pacing back and forth in her tent, but stops anxiously when you come in.
Did you bring the helmet?
Nakamura actually pales.
You're it's unacceptable.
Her voice shakes with fury.
Guards!
The abbot towers over you threateningly.
I was wrong about you. You want this new Middle Ages to continue. You had the opportunity to help everyone locked inside the dome. However, you wasted it. Enjoy your life in the damned world you have created yourself.
Zemeckis is sitting in the same place, but there's no teacup in front of him. There's a bottle of some alcohol, a carafe of water, and 2 shot glasses instead. Hieronymus raises his glass slightly above the table.
So, how are you doing? Feeling like a winner? Sit down. Let's drink to your success. You shouldn't refuse. You're curious why I offer you a place at my table.
Zemeckis winks at you.
Nuts to you then. But don't think you won.
He downs his glass and refills it. Another milestone in the history of mankind has come to an end. Of course, Maelstrom, one thing is indisputable. Maelstrom, when it came down to making a choice, you followed your conscience and put your trust in someone whose intelligence, sincerity, and good intentions were never in doubt. Henrietta Russo and all her scientist colleagues under the dome received a truly luxurious gift. An enormous, insanely complex anomaly ready for their research and experiments. Maelstrom was split into many foci with different properties and well-defined boundaries. Although your decision had political consequences, nothing much changed at first. Life under the dome went on as usual. Nakamura's death was the start of a new chapter in the city's history. Those who succeeded Kimiko realized how badly the city needed democracy and immediately moved to soften the committee's many regulations. The rules of staying in the city and sales duties were significantly relaxed. These policy changes led to the slow but steady growth of the settlement. Bethany Mortensen, who had won mayoral elections in Junktown, decided to follow her program to the letter. She managed to attract merchants to the settlement from all over the dome and persuaded the administration of the new committee to grant Junktown the status of a special economic zone. A few weeks after the election, Kurt Spengler, whose reputation was destroyed, was removed from the sheriff's position. Kurt may have been bad, but the person who came after him was even worse. Within a few years, the crime rate in Junktown increased so much that the new committee brought in troops. Independent history of the settlement has come to an end. Now it is nothing more than an appendage of the city. With the weakening of the new committee, Magellan weakened too. The regime remained the same, only the people became poorer and more miserable. Elections took place in Carmine Heights. The Reisners kept their position. Your help had a significant effect on the settlement, and the community learned its lesson. Peace among its members became the highest priority of its internal policy, and eventually led to the creation of the local parliament. The long-lasting, simmering conflict which had been ruining the marriage of Johann and Olivia gradually faded. The now wiser spouses managed to build a balanced settlement, combining both powerful scientific potential and productive agriculture. With the passage of time, Carmine Heights managed a small but technically equipped army to protect the Republic from invading forces. Zemeckis' embarrassment from losing the elections in Carmine Heights didn't last long. Hieronymus channeled all his passion toward transforming the Phalanx, trying to turn it from a private mercenary army to something bigger. One could say he failed. The false database you gave him did not allow Zemeckis to lure the new committee's key employees away, which was necessary to develop the Phalanx's own scientific projects. The Phalanx remained a community of mercenaries. The pocket country created by Hieronymus decayed gradually, becoming totally unpopulated after a couple of decades. Zemeckis himself died in 1999 after a long illness, seeing for himself both the rise and fall of the Phalanx. Your both covert and open sabotage of the Church's activity undermined its attitudes dramatically. Many followers whose faith wasn't strong enough left it. The organization, whose popularity had been fueled with regular donations and its leader's charisma, decayed slowly during several years, until it stopped existing completely in 1989. As for the picnic neutral zone, it degraded slowly for many years. Your help proved to be not enough to provide its autonomy. You had taken Victoria's head, but broke your promise. When the Fops realized you'd fooled them, they were furious. For a long time, their army, led by ire and sorrow, roamed about the desert, tearing apart unfortunate travelers. The gang's life ended some 30 years later at the Phalanx Fortress, when the last surviving Fops clashed with the elderly Phalanx men. The fight was desperate, and there were no survivors. In the hands of White Wing, Maelstrom began a new scientific era. The next 2 years of research revealed more about the dome than everything that had been learned before. New drugs were developed to completely counter radiation sickness and cancer. In 1983, the prospect of escaping the dome and reversing the infertility problem were but the first of many glorious achievements for mankind. The scientists had no desire to become a political force, but nevertheless their influence changed society under the dome forever. The future continued to be uncertain, but now at least it was in good hands. Though it became obvious much later, after many years, by that time, the desert had covered your traces. Though the tale of what you'd done is still alive, and will stay like that till the end of time.